I am here at Lost Let Shrine in Attleboro, Massachusetts, and I am kind of reshooting a video I just shot. And the reason I'm reshooting it is because of the incredible, some of you will call it coincidence, I'm going to call it sign, that I was just given while shooting the video. So the topic of my video was, and will be, about how grief changes us. What I wanted to really kind of dive into is how, even though we can't control the fact that grief will change us, and we can't control the fact that grief is in our life, we can control how we choose to move forward with it. The first decision that we have to make is that we want to feel better, because yeah, there are people who just don't want to get better. They get used to the pain, they identify with the grief, it becomes their identity, and they don't realize that, but that's who they now think they have to become. The pain may be real, and you can absolutely need to feel that pain and experience it. What you don't have to do is you don't have to stay lost in it. Okay, you need to, the only way to heal through grief is to go through it. And part of going through that is that, loss of control. And it stinks, actually it sucks. Let's, use the right words. And, you don't have total control over that, but that's not a forever feeling unless you choose to allow it to be. A lot of people have moved forward and reflected light back into the world based off that loss that they initially took in. And there are some people who let that darkness, that grief, just consume them and continue to take. And I have a belief, and for me, one day when I said enough's enough was when I said, grief's taken so much from me and my family already. I'm not going to allow it to keep taking. I'm not going to now give it more. I can't control, because if I could, my wife would be here. I can't control the fact that she was taken from us. I can control 5 years later how much I continue to let grief take. And at this point, it's taking, but it's also me giving if I allow that. Which is why I'm doing a video. It's why I run a support group. It's why I spend time, a lot of my free time, talking to people about their loss. That's why sometimes, I am exhausted at 9 o'clock at night when I haven't physically done much all day, but mentally I've spoken to so many people about loss and their loss and the sadness and the depression that they're going through, especially the ones who are early into it. So that brings me to why I'm reshooting this video. So I do have the recording of what happened when I was, I'll kind of show you here. I was walking up ahead here and shooting my video, and I noticed something sitting over on a bench. There's a bag, and at first I just thought it was trash, and then I know something was in it right over on that bench there. And that's when I said, let me go take a look in case somebody lost something or left something behind. I could go turn it into the office. Well, you'll see in the video I'm going to splice in. Oh, sorry for that close-up. You'll see in the video I'm about to splice in. What it was a book. And the book was written by the parents of a young woman who passed away. Now, literally, this all happened within the last 15 minutes. I don't know how she passed away, how recent it was, etc. But I did pick up the book and I brought it to my car, and I will be reading it. But again, here I am shooting a video on how grief can change you for the better, how you can add, light back into the world. And we reflect things back. And in reflection, it's come up a couple times this week in unique ways. Another example of how it changed me. A few days ago, my daughter, we have 2 stray cats outside of our house, our condo, and my daughter was worried about the winter coming and these stray cats. So I looked online for ideas and what should you do about stray cats? You just leave them alone? Are they okay in the winter? And it talked about building a shelter, and it had some examples. So it was like $35. We made 2 shelters, one for each cat. And so that right there is not something I would have done 5 years ago. Believe me. Am I saying the scales are balanced now and that the world is right because her daughter was taken and grief changed her in this way? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that we can choose to let grief continue to take. We can continue to let it take from us and give to it. Or we can stop and say, enough's enough. You took and you will take no more. There's another mother who knows a little bit about grief. And I don't think we need to talk about what would happen if grief hadn't changed her, right? She could have chosen to stay consumed by it and just give in to the darkness, give in to that loneliness, that fear, that isolation. Thank God she didn't, right? See, grief changes us 100%. But we can have a say in how it changes us and who we become. We see these words, grief ripped a piece out of me, I'll never get back. Grief changed me, I'll never be the same. Okay, and no one's arguing that. But how about we look past that statement alone as not the end all be all to the situation? What if we say, yes, grief ripped out a piece of you, but you have a say in what you fill that hole in with? What if we say, yes, you'll never be the same, but you have a say in who you're going to become? Because that is the truth. That is how the sentence ends. With grief, it clouds our vision, okay? It blocks things out, doesn't allow us to see clearly. We see half the statement. We see grief changes us. Yes, but we don't see the rest of the sentence. Grief changes us, but I am going to decide who I become, okay? Grief left a hole in me, yes, but I'm going to decide what I fill that hole in with, okay? Grief took from us, it doesn't get to keep taking, okay? That's where we put our foot down. We say enough, all right? At some point of the process, and it's different for everyone, I wouldn't dare say at 6 months, at 1 year, at 3 years, I'm not going to tell you when, but at some point of your personal journey, grief is no longer taking from you, you're giving to it, okay? That is just a fact you have to face. A therapist may not say that to you, and I'm not a therapist. I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from talking to lots of different people who've gone through it. At some point, you're giving to grief. Grief is not taking from you. For a mother to be able to do that, to be able to put those works together couldn't have been easy. And to do that, to put that back out into the world in hopes that even one person would read it and be touched by it. And yeah, one person, I can tell you right now, this one will be reading it. But again, it's a mother's pain. And she's going through grief, and I'm sure, I haven't spoken to her, but I'm sure she probably said, grief changes me. It ripped a piece out of me. It left a hole that I'll never have filled again. Well, it did. Grief does all those things. It rips a piece out of you. But what she did was she kind of filled that hole in a little bit with that book, with putting Erin. I don't know who Erin Rodricks is. I had never met her before. Didn't know her name. But here it is, years after her passing, and I just get to meet her through that book. Get to know her name through that book. You all watching this get to know her name through that book, because of grief changing her mother. I go to the cemetery a lot, and there were a lot of stones there with no flowers on them that were just left for years and years and years, untouched. No one visited them, just people who were forgotten. And maybe they weren't forgotten, maybe, whatever, maybe people just don't go visit the stone, I don't know. I consider it forgotten when the stone's covered, caked with algae and moss, and it's just not been touched or cared for. Anyway, to live a life, even if it's a short time, I believe I looked at the book quick. I think it said Erin was 23 when she passed. So forgive me if that's wrong, I'm not sure. But to live only until 23 and your name still be carried on, people still be talking about you because grief changed somebody, because grief changed their mother. I'm sure her mother would give everything to have her back, but grief changed her, you know. And if those writings, if that book, if anything, if it helps one person, if it led to me talk about this video, and this video helps one person, but there's more to that saying that we leave off, is I'll never be the same, but I haven't yet decided who I'm going to become, right? We can decide who we're going to become in little pieces in little actions, and how we decide to get back up, because grief will knock you down many times, but you decide, you know, what you're going to do about it. You're going to stay down, or you're going to get back up? What are you going to do when you get up? So there's that. And you know, as far as it ripping a piece of us out, it does. But again, you know, we decide what we're gonna fill that hole in. We don't have to leave that hole empty. We can fill it with something. Some people fill it with the wrong things, right? Alcohol, drugs, anger, hatred, and you know, hey, in the beginning of my 5 years, you know, not the drugs, the alcohol, the anger, the hatred, yeah, those were all getting filled into that hole. Luckily, my support system, you know, helped me along the way. The answers I was seeking helped me along the way to clear that hole out and fill it in with the right stuff, okay? So hopefully you do the same. If you need that, if it's something that you need, know this too. No, you're not expected to have to do it on your own, right? There's help out there. There's, if you don't have the friends and the family, there's therapists, there's support groups. There are avenues, there's books, there's lots of things that can help you get there. It's not a one-step process. There's, you know, you don't bake a cake with one ingredient, okay? So there's other things that you're gonna have to do. It may not be, if you just went to a therapist and it's been 6 months of going to a therapist and you don't feel better, it's not always one ingredient, okay? So know that. You may have to try multiple things. You may have to try different therapists. You may have to try different support groups, whatever it is. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up. I know I've gone on a while. I'll edit this down. And yeah, I'll definitely be reading that book and sharing on the website some information about it and what it's about, and maybe a little review in case you want to pick it up for yourself. All right, thanks, and talk to you soon.
Trusting your heart is true. With you I'll always be new. Forever grateful, it's true. In your hands I lay my fears. Guide me through the darkest years. Your love's a shelter from the storm, keeping me safe and warm. I lay my fears. Guide me through the darkest years.